So good morning. Thank you for coming. It's early, but this morning I have Beth Greer, who stepped in at the very last minute. We were supposed to have Hilary Boynton come, and her daughter was in a car crash. So Beth had emailed me a few weeks ago and said, if you ever need a speaker, this is what I speak about. Like, you've got it. And so I called her up, I think it was on Thursday, and I was just like, hi, do you want to come speak? And so I'm really happy to have her, because I wasn't aware of her before she contacted me a few weeks ago. So it all falls into place, is my feeling about it. She is the supernatural mom, so that pretty much says it all. It covers what we are looking to talk about here at LiveAware. And she is an award-winning journalist. She has been endorsed by Deepak Chopra, Ralph Nader, Joe Mercola, and so we're really happy to have her here to talk about basically, how you are living in your home and ensuring that it is as non-toxic as possible. So thank you, Beth, for coming and stepping up.
Okay, you're welcome. Thank you. I hear like an echo. Is that? Thanks for being here today. So I say good health starts in your home. Why do I say that? Well, 16 years ago, I thought I was leading a healthy lifestyle. I thought I was eating well, I exercised, watched my weight, didn't drink or smoke, and I even had a meditation practice. And I had this pain in my shoulder, and I went to my chiropractor. I thought it was some structural issue. And after 5 sessions with him, he said, I think you have a herniated disc, and you should go get an MRI. And so the MRI showed I had a mass in my chest. It was a tumor. It was this big. It's called a schwannoma tumor, a nerve root tumor. Very painful. And it was pressing on the nerves that ran down my arm, and my first 3 fingers were getting numb. And I thought, how could this have happened to me? I thought, I'm doing everything right here. And I started thinking about, okay, well, really, am I really eating healthy? Am I really eating 100% organic? And I realized I was using a microwave oven, and I was eating out a lot. And so you don't know what's in the restaurant food. You don't know what kind of oils they use, for example, and the quality of the produce and all that. So as luck would have it, I went down to the Optimal Health Institute. I had a reservation down there for some R&R because I was running a large multinational company called the Learning Annex, and I was stressed. So I got there, and it's a place where you do juice cleanses and fasting and internal cleansing, like colonics, for example. And I noticed that after just 3 days of this routine, that the pain started to diminish. And I thought, hey, this is interesting. Like, what's going on? And so I stayed there a week, and I realized, what I was doing was simplifying what I was putting in my body. And I thought, well, okay, I'm going to continue this regime when I got home. So I became 100% raw. I bought a food dehydrator and a big Vitamix, and I decided to just do this and see what changes would occur. And then I thought, okay, well, what else can I simplify? And I picked up a jar of the moisturizer I was using on my skin, and I saw there was a paragraph worth of, chemicals on there that I couldn't pronounce. And I thought, well, this is crazy. I'm not going to use this. And I started using coconut oil. And I switched out to my deodorant to baking soda, for example. And then I thought, well, what else? What's surrounding me here? And I happened to have a bottle of Windex in my hand. And I looked at the label, and it said, precautionary statement, hazardous to humans and domestic animals, right on the label. So I thought, okay, this is going. Why would I want to put toxic stuff on my countertop? So I'm cleaning now with hydrogen peroxide and white vinegar, for example. Anyway, it took, I I'd say somewhere around 9 months for the pain to completely disappear by eating just pure food, juicing, and having a completely clean, toxin-free environment. And then I went and had the tumor scanned. Now, I just want to back up for a second. When I had it biopsied, and I went to 3 top Bay Area surgeons, and they all said to me, you need to have surgery to have this removed. No one, in the you'd be in medical textbooks if you could make this go away without surgery. And so one wanted to cut me under my collarbone, the second one wanted to cut me under my armpit, and the third one wanted to remove one of my ribs from the back to access it. And I just said, this is not happening for me. And I even spoke to a neurosurgeon who told me that if I did have surgery that I could lose the feeling in my hand permanently, my right hand, because the nerves were entangled. So 9 months later after doing this, pain gone, and then I had the tumor scanned 6 months later, and it was gone. It disappeared. So for me, this was a huge wake-up call that our bodies are self-healing. If we don't bombard them with all the toxins in our everyday products. And I spoke to Dr. Dale Bredesen recently. He wrote the book at the end of Alzheimer's. And he told me, he said, what you did was you changed your epigenetics by making these lifestyle shifts. And that's what he's doing with Alzheimer's patients. He's actually reversing Alzheimer's by doing what I did for my tumor. So anyway, I wanted to really focus on food today because food is really the thing we have the most control over. And the food we're eating can be pretty toxic, unwittingly. So my question, what the hell are we eating? We're exposed to so many chemicals, and one of the food additives, for example. So artificial food dyes, I'm going to go over these. Artificial food dyes, preservatives, pesticides, aspartame, artificial sweeteners, and I want to talk about understanding the sometimes very misleading labeling on meat, poultry, eggs, and fish. So food additives. Yeah, they're poorly tested, and in fact, they can cause hormone imbalances, weight gain, decreased energy, and they're in processed foods and genetically modified foods. So those are things you really, really, really want to avoid. So I want to talk about artificial food dyes, for example. This was in Forbes magazine talking about the dangers of food dyes, and they're made from petroleum and coal tar. And so here's the sad thing. They're banned in Europe, but they're sold here in America. So why are they banned? Because they did testing on children, and they gave them artificial food dyes only 60 milligrams, and they developed temper tantrums. So this is like a really typical example. I work with people. I go into their homes and help them kind of figure out mystery illnesses, and especially kids with ADHD, people with headaches, chronic coughs, and things. This child, this was a typical meal. So how many food dye milligrams do you think might be in a meal like this? This is a mac and cheese, orange soda, and a bag of Skittles. It's over 100. So if 60 causes behavioral problems, this is over 100, and multiply this by, this was just lunch. I mean, what's happening at dinner, and Halloween coming up? It can be pretty frightening. It's found in children's Claritin and adult as well, hidden, and in our vitamins. How many of you have vitamins that perhaps look like colored? So, they're there, and so it's something to pay attention to if you have a situation where you're perhaps have ADD or you're a little bit anxious or depressed. These might be a trigger for you. So just recently, October 5th, 2018, the FDA banned 7 additives, colors, and flavors because they found that they caused cancer in laboratory animals. But here's the catch. They have 2 years to make a change. 2 years. So 2 more years of all this crap going into our food that's causing cancer. It's something. So we as consumers really need to take charge and pay attention and start reading labels. So I give talks to parents groups and stuff, and I had this box of Jiffy blueberry muffin mix. It's got all these food dyes in it, but it may be hard to read, but I'll show you right here. It says artificially flavored with imitation blueberries. So it's got hydrogenated oil and sugar and the food dye. It's like these little bombs of horror. I view them that way. So, a really easy, safe alternative would be using fresh blueberries and making your own muffins. And then Gatorade. Who drinks Gatorade? I know I've talked to like health clubs, and people are like, especially athletes, they're all drinking this stuff. And they were shocked to see, because they don't read the label. They think, oh, Gatorade, it'll give me electrolytes. But look what it's got in it. It's got red dye 40, blue number 1. Plus it's got sucrose and glucose, fructose. It's not really great stuff. So a good, safe alternative would be coconut water. Do you guys drink that? So tasty, it works the same, and also something like Perrier, and then adding some fresh fruit to it, lemon, lime. It's a really good. People are adding turmeric now for anti-inflammatory. So I want to talk about preservatives. So before I had a slideshow, I used to go to places with my little show and tell, and I'd carry products with me. And so I had this loaf of bread. It was this one here. It was Safeway Kitchen, 100% whole wheat bread. So the reason I bought the bread is that I want people to know that when they're buying products, they should look for the words 100%, like this one, 100% whole wheat. If you want to still be eating wheat, which I think we all need to be off wheat, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. But I bought this bread, and I had it in my pantry 8 months, and there wasn't a speck of mold on it. And I thought, God, it felt as soft as the day I bought it. What do you think the shelf life of a loaf of bread should be? Really, 3 days, right? 8 months, no mold. So what's going on? So I read the label. It's got something called calcium propionate in it, which causes ADHD behavior in rats. So, I started thinking about it. I grew up, this is Pepperidge Farm. I grew up on that. You have a couple of slices of toast for breakfast, and maybe you have a sandwich, maybe you have... Boy, you're being bombarded with this calcium propionate. It's a mold inhibitor, and this stuff really works well. And also, so here's the calcium propionate. It also says partially produced with genetic engineering. So, that's something we want to pay attention to. And as I said, I grew up on this bread, and just because it's on the store shelves does not mean that it's safe, and it's been tested for safety. They're adding things in. So, a safe alternative would be to buy organic bread. Get a bread at a bakery, for example, something that has a 3-day shelf life, not an 8-month shelf life. So here's another preservative. This is a food additive, BHA and VHT, again, banned in Europe and UK and Japan. And it's found in the lining of the cereal boxes, like the cellophane kind of plastic coating in there. It's also found in Trident gum. Did you have a question?
Yeah, I was just wondering, do you just recommend freezing what you can't use within that time?
If you buy fresh bread, yes. So slice it and freeze it. Yes. That is a really good idea. Because otherwise, if you buy a big bread and then it's stale in 3 days, you don't want to throw it out. Yeah.
Does it actually say on the bread that it will last that long?
No. What it says is, see, this is what's so misleading. What it says is calcium propionate, and so my point is it's a mold inhibitor. They put it in there. It doesn't say it's going to last 8 months. Most people don't hold on to a loaf of bread that long. I did because I was demonstrating a point. But no, it's not going to tell you how long it's going to keep, but I'm telling you it will last that long.
Because it won't mold.
That's right. It won't mold, and it may cause ADHD behavior in you and your kids. Okay, good. So when you buy organic bread, it's not going to have calcium propionate in it. Okay, so preservatives. So we talked about that. Okay. Wait, I'm going the wrong way. Sorry. Okay, so I want to talk about pesticides. So I speak a lot, and people are always like, I just heard, in fact, I just spoke 2 days ago to a group, and this guy raised his hand. He said, the Consumer Reports just came out and said, don't buy organic food. It's not any better than, doesn't have any higher nutritional value, and you're wasting your money. Like, what do you guys, do you think that that's true, a true statement? No, absolutely not, right? So,
I heard that report, and my girlfriend's on the Consumer Affair Board in Oakland.
uh-huh.
And I do a lot of research for her, and I said, go after this, go after that, And I was hoping she'd come here today. But that stuff about the pesticides,
Yeah,
just trying to go after the glyphosate and things, and all of this advertising is just to confuse people.
that's right.
The biggest thing about organic products is that Jerry Brown wrote a bill to put fracking fluid in the drinking water, which waters our crops. So it's radioactive and it's got these chemicals. So using recycled toilet water. In
Yes.
Monterey, where they grow the organic, matter of fact, I got the news article right here.
Right, so I'm going to talk about water a little bit down the road, so we
That's
can...
why they're saying organic is not organic because of the crap in the water.
Uh-huh.
And the pesticides in
Yes,
the water.
yes, it's true. It's true.
They didn't quite say it, but it's still better to have organic food than not spraying that extra pesticide.
That's
on
right.
what you're eating.
Yes.
Yeah.
Although they are spraying glyphosate now, this is what I've just read, that I came from a scientific study, conference that doctors were reporting they're spraying glyphosate even on organic corn and wheat because as a desiccant. So the farmers will grow the crops and certify them as 100% organic. Then when it goes to the manufacturer, it's not. And it's concerning.
I actually don't believe that's true.
I don't believe that's true either.
Or if it is, they're cheating because I'm going to get a producer and
Yes.
Roundup detected anywhere on your crop and it's completely decertified immediately. If that is grounds for decertification, so somebody's doing something there.
Okay, so this was a conference called the American Academy of Environmental Medicine, and their doctors were presenting this as evidence. So,
Somebody needs to do more work on that.
okay,
But she said it was sent off to the manufacturer, so it wasn't done on the farm.
right, not done on the farm.
Manufacturers be certified in the chain. You can't do certification and have it presented to a consumer without the entire chain being certified to get it. And that includes any kind of illicit chemicals. So something funny's going on here.
Okay.
They test the end product, they test the entire certification chain must be certified.
And they're not finding any traces of glyphosate in
No,
again?
I'm not saying that.
Oh.
I'm saying it cannot be used.
Okay,
There's a trace of it came environmentally, that's not your fault. I get that part. But the bottom line is you cannot use it. It cannot be intentionally. If you use it intentionally, actually it's a criminal offense.
so they're not. You're saying they're not spraying?
Absolutely not.
Okay, good. Well,
Not legally.
not legally. Okay. Well, I'm going to look. I really want to dig into this a little bit more because this was alarming. So.
I've been a certified organic dairyman and an almond grower for 20 years. It's a really intense organic certification process, and this is absolutely illegal if they were to do that.
Okay, good. So 80% of the apples are sprayed with this chemical that I can't even pronounce, and it turns into nitrosamines, which are linked to cancer and type 2 diabetes. And so the U.S. banned, the EU banned United States apples in 2012 from coming into the EU. So I had an amazing experience with an apple orchard many years ago when my daughter was in a Waldorf school. I grew up in New York City, so I wasn't really exposed to farms and all that, but we went on a field trip and there was an apple orchard, and I got to go up to the tree, pick an apple, smell it. It smelled incredible, fragrant, and then tasted it. It was transformative for me. And the apples we buy in the supermarket, they have no fragrance, so right? if you ever get a chance to go, there's wonderful apple orchards, so close to us, up in Sebastopol and Petaluma, so that it's great. So, and then this is from the film Unacceptable Levels, and they talked about a non-organic tomato has 35 pesticide residues, and 5 are known to be probable carcinogens, 3 are developmental or reproductive toxins, 14 are suspected hormone disruptors, and 6 are neurotoxins. So I've basically, if I eat, I'd say 99.9% organic, and I've stopped eating certain foods, especially when I go out, and I know it's not organic, tomato sauce, for example, or things with apples in them, because apples are another high, there's a lot of chemical residue, toxic chemical pesticide residue on apples. And coffee. You guys drinking organic coffee? Yes, okay, good. So because it's one of the most highly sprayed crops on the planet. So, your Starbucks, tastes good Pete's, but I've been buying my own beans organic and then grinding them and feeling really good about it. And so yeah, I want to talk about shade-grown. So shade-grown coffee is when they have trees and then the birds are living in the trees and the birds are eating the bugs and they're fertilizing the soil. Well, what they're doing now is they're clear-cutting these shade-grown coffee because it's cheaper, and so they're spraying more. So they need more pesticides because the birds are gone. So you want to look for shade-grown. Certified fair trade means that farmers are guaranteed a minimum wage. And so some coffees are labeled all 3, but the best choice is to buy organic because that will ensure that it's been shade-grown, because you won't find any clear-cut, sun-grown coffee that's organic. So is organic better? So organic apples have 300% more vitamin C. That's a huge amount. 61% more calcium. And organic spinach, 7 times more calcium. And organic tomatoes, 97% more antioxidants. This was from a 10-year study at UC Davis. I mean, this is pretty impressive. And so if somebody's going to sort of challenge the fact that, organic food is not as nutritious, here are some statistics. So let's have...
This is a challenge. This is right here, our salad bowl.
Uh-huh. Yes, the wastewater used to irrigate our crops. We're going to talk about that. So let's have a little game. So these are from... You're all familiar with Environmental Working Group? The Dirty Dozen, Clean 15? Okay, so these are just a few of the... I've got like 10 of them. Which do you think is the one with the most toxic pesticides? Strawberries. Okay, good. You're a smart group because the pesticides are injected into the root system, so you can't wash off the strawberries. So if you think that you're using some kind of a wash or a spray, it's not going to get rid of it. And so number 2, what do you think the second highest one was? Actually, it's the spinach. Yeah. Spinach, apples, tomatoes, and then what do you think are some of the cleaner ones?
Avocado.
Yes, avocado. I have my list, but one thing that I discovered, things with a peel, like grapefruits, and then mushrooms are low. But the potato, also they injected into the root system. So if you're going out to eat and you're eating, mashed potatoes or roasted potatoes, they're there. The pesticide level's pretty high. It's in the flesh. So this is...
Say something about,
yes.
You were saying how you went to the farm and took an apple off the tree and ate it.
Yes.
This, when they spray aluminum oxide, strontium, and barium on us, and they spray it all the time to change the weather, I have a couple of fruit trees in my backyard, and I have a Meyer lemon tree. The thing is covered with black crap, and there's no construction in my area.
Wow.
I think it's from the power plant air pollution.
Where do you live?
I live in Hayward.
Uh-huh.
So they built that power plant right across the bridge for San Mateo coming over here, and that stuff blows over my house. And If I take an apple, like I just had some organic apples, I peel the skin off. I don't eat any skin on anything because I have a persimmon tree, you name it. I peel the skin off because the crap in the air is on, and these nanoparticles of aluminum and the radium, you know, the radiation from the strontium.
Can we save our questions to the end?
Okay, but when you're saying you're biting this stuff right out of the farm, I would
Yes.
never do that.
Oh, okay.
And that's why.
Can we save question and comment, because I'm worried she's not going to get through her tour briefly yet.
Okay, so look for the USDA organic label, and if you can't, if you're shopping at farmers markets, talk to your farmer. Become chummy with them. You know, I go there all the time. It's like, okay, are you spraying? No. If they're not certified organic, sometimes they can't afford. It's an expensive process, right? So then I'll ask, well, what are you using to fertilize with? And you know, they'll tell me using organic fertilizer or not. So we have a choice. You know, we have a choice to make a decision on what, and then the fruits and vegetables that have the highest residue you want to sort of avoid if they're not organic. So, and then do you all know about the sticker, this 5-digit code on our fruits and vegetables? Have you all seen that?
Yeah, and I forget.
Okay, so you forget. So if you see the number 9 at the front, it means it's organic. So that's what you want to look for, the number 9. And then 8 would mean it's genetically modified. I've seen very few 8 labels because manufacturers are not necessarily labeling their fruits and vegetables as genetically modified yet. But 4 means conventional. So I've seen, you know, they'll say organic, and then you look at the little sticker, it'll have a 4, and it's not. So it's an easy thing to look for. And, you know, sometimes they switch things up at Whole Foods even. They'll have, you know, this is organic from whatever, Mexico, and then it'll have a 4 on it, and then I'll know it's not. And then non-GMO verified, which would be really good. So these are some of the fruits and vegetables that have been cotton, for example. Soy and corn are the two. I'd say probably 90% of our soy and corn that's not organic has been genetically modified. So something to be aware of. And papayas coming from Hawaii have been genetically modified. And canola oil. So I avoid canola oil. I know a lot of chefs are using canola because it has a very light taste, but it's really, from my research, it's not a healthy oil to use. Yeah.
Even at Whole Foods in the cooking section where you can take food home,
Canola oil, yeah. So all their soups are made with canola. I know. So I don't do it anymore. And the salad dressings are all canola oil, but they do have bottles of olive oil and lemon juice and balsamic vinegar. So I usually make my own dressing there.
The non-GMO project, are they government affiliated or are they own their own separate group?
The separate group. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, aspartame. So you guys, are you using, you're not? No. Okay, it's funny because I have a friend who I've known for many, many years, and she eats sweet and low. She uses it all the time. And her mother and her sister both died of cancer. She's 66 years old. And we go out, and she whips out her sweet and low. And I said, this is a neurotoxin. You can't really be eating this. This is not healthy for you. And I've already started to notice that her hands are starting to shake a little bit. And she said to me, but Beth, it dissolves in both cold and hot liquids. And so she's in love with this stuff. Can't get her to stop eating it.
highly addictive.
Oh, that's what it is. Highly addictive. There you go. Okay. Yeah, she loves. Yes, it causes obesity. That's right. So people crave more carbohydrates when they're eating this stuff. So I had a client. She got a box of this Nestle's hot cocoa mix, and it says no sugar added. So she opened up a packet, and she had a dizzy spell after drinking it. Then next day, had another dizzy spell. So then she read the label, and it said aspartame. So she thought, okay, she filed that away. So a couple of weeks later, she went to this little coffee shop, cafe, and she ordered a piece of pecan pie. If I have it on. Yeah, she had a slice of pecan pie. When she finished it, she had a dizzy spell. So she thought to ask the chef, okay, what did you sweeten your pecan pie with? And he said, I used aspartame. to lower the calories. So she was able to connect the dots, because most people would run to their doctor and say, I'm having dizzy spells. What do I do? Take a pill. Yeah, that's it. Take a pill. People want a pill. So the friend who is eating the sweet and low, it's funny. We went to a birthday party, and they brought out this giant cake. And I have been off gluten for 8 years. And the birthday boy said, come on, you have to have a slice. It's not going to kill you. And it's from this very famous bakery. It was a tres leches cake. And I thought, it's been so long, I'm sure I'm sort of cleared out. So I had a piece, and then I actually had another half a piece because it was so delicious. And then the next morning, I woke up with a splitting headache. And then I told my friend, I said, oh my God, it must be the cake. I feel terrible. And her response was, just take a pill. Why don't you just take a pill and then eat whatever you want so that you don't have a headache? And I was trying to explain to her, my body is screaming out, don't eat me, do not eat this gluten, because it's not serving me well. Why would I want to just take a pill? And anyway, so I'm off gluten again. Okay, so fiber 1, this has aspartame in it. So that surprised me because, some people might think, well, this is a healthy cereal because it's full of fiber. We all need fiber. But it does contain, and look at the list of, oops, wait a minute. I'm going the wrong way. Look at the list of all these ingredients, right? So look for the smallest amount, maybe 3-5 ingredients. So this is the scientific molecule of aspartame, and so it's linked up with phenylalanine, which causes the levels of our serotonin to decrease. It can lead to depression, and it can trigger headaches and anxiety and even seizures in some people. I have a friend who has multiple sclerosis, and her husband has Parkinson's. And I'm convinced, this is environmental. Like, how do you get 2 people in the same house with these horrible illnesses, autoimmune? And so when his Parkinson's was diagnosed, he had a brain scan. And my first question was, is he drinking diet soda? And she said, yeah, he's been drinking 2 cans a day for 20 years. So sometimes that will mask or mirror, Parkinson's when it's actually having a reaction from the sweetener in there. And now they're flavoring, there's a new additive, it's called Sweet Mix. I don't know if you've seen this, but what's disturbing to me about Sweet Mix is that manufacturers don't have to list it on the label, they're just calling it sweetener. But it's, FDA said that it's generally recognized as safe. So they don't have, if a manufacturer says that it's generally recognized as safe, they don't have to notify the FDA about it. And it'll be hidden as part of artificial flavorings. So if you see the words artificial flavorings or artificial sweeteners or even just, sweetener blend, that can be an indication that you've got chemicals in there that are not healthy for you. So some great alternatives. I love monk fruit. Have you guys tried this? So this dissolves also in cold water, so you can make iced tea and add some monk fruit to it. And I love.
What is that sweet mix stuff? What is it?
It's a chemical compound that manufacturers are just started creating, and it's a mystery. Okay. I mean, that's the thing. They don't have to disclose. Just like the word fragrance on a label, manufacturers do not have to disclose the hundreds of chemicals in that one word. It's a catchphrase. Yeah.
Not to take over, but I just have to put this in.
Yes.
A friend of mine, because of lobbies and all that.
Right. Yeah, it's used in. It's poison. It's used in our food. And you're right. It came because the scientists tasted it. It's sweet, no calories. Let's use it. And there's no testing on us guinea pigs. So start switching out to natural sweeteners. So as I said, monk fruit's great. Yakan syrup is another one. I love dates. I eat dates as dessert, just 2 or 3. It's so satisfying. And then just some natural sugars. Honey is great. Maple syrup. But just really stay away from the chemical stuff.
And with children,
It poisons the children. Our children's brains, they're developing. Yeah, there's so much to talk about around children. But yes.
Dr. Russell Blaylock has a book called Excitotoxins, The Taste That Kills, and it's all
Right. So if you're starting to feel like this, I just wanted to mention that I have a course coming up. Where is it? Where is it? Oh, it's called Healthy Home Course if you look online. So I take you through the kitchen for 2 weeks. So it's a 4-week course, an hour a week, maybe a little bit longer, and it'll be live Q&A with me. And we'll go 2 weeks in the kitchen, so everything in your pantry and refrigerator, and then a week on your personal care products and makeup. And then the 4th week is on electromagnetic fields and household cleaners, carpeting, EMFs, all that. So I just thought I would share that with you. Okay, so CAFOs, so confined animal feeding operations. So these factory farms can house up like millions of cattle. I mean, I've driven by on I-5. There's a ranch there that the smell you can smell from miles away, and they're injecting these cattle with hormones, antibiotics, genetically modified food. So they're feeding them corn and soy. So something to be aware of. And so if you can find pasture-raised, that's the best. This is the way God created cows to eat grass, and that's they feel healthiest, and they produce the healthiest milk and meat when they're eating grass. When they're fed a grain and soy, corn, their stomachs get bloated, and we are what our animals are eating, basically. So if you're eating animal protein, now I went vegan, after this tumor scare. I started eating everything but all natural and sustainable and pasture-raised. But recently I decided to try just an all-vegan diet. I thought, well, I'm going to do myself and the planet good. So I did. It was on it for 10 months, and then I had my blood work done, and it was disaster for me. Everybody's different. That's the big takeaway. For me, my insulin level went up. I became pre-diabetic, and I wasn't eating processed food. I was just eating lots of fruits and vegetables. Pre-diabetic, and then my my inflammation level went up, and all these other markers. And my nutritionist started yelling at me, and she said, because I'm a B blood type, so I think it's important to kind of check our blood types to know. She said B blood types cannot be vegan. Our nervous systems are too sensitive. She said, you need animal protein. So I'm back on eating, not a ton of it, but so anyway, but again, everyone's different. Some people do brilliantly on a vegan diet.
Are you B negative?
B positive. B, right. So these are also pork. I mean, this is an example of how the pigs are raised there versus there. So yeah, I mean, if you want to eat bacon, look for the one that's pasture-grown, pasture-raised, without the antibiotics. They're smart animals, and it's criminal the way they're being housed. And I know, in North Carolina, all of the runoff now, have you heard, from the flooding, there are lots of pig farms, so all of the waste is now going into the groundwater, and that means it contains all of those chemicals too, and we're being exposed to it. And so the same with chickens. This is how chickens are raised, and if you can find the free, at the farmers market, they'll have signs up saying our birds are eating grubs and maggots, which I thought was kind of gross, but that's healthy apparently. So, and then this is well, can you see the difference in color of the yolks? Right. So the one on the left is a factory egg, and the one on the right is pasture-raised. And they do taste different, and they're giving us nutrients. They're feeding our bodies. So let's talk about these. Do you guys get confused when you go to the store? And like if you see grass-fed, like I was at Whole Foods, and I saw, oh, I'm going to get the grass-fed beef. And then I asked them, I said, is it 100% grass-fed? And he said, oh, no. The last few months or last few weeks, they start to feed them grains to sweeten the meat. So he said a lot of people don't like 100% grass-fed because it tastes gamey to them. So it's really important and it is a little bit more expensive. He said, oh, I do have 100% grass-fed over here, and that was like $12.99 a pound versus $8.99 a pound. But so you want to look for grass-finished or pasture-raised. But again, if you can find 100% pasture-raised, that would be ideal. And organic. So when I see the word organic, so if you see organic chicken, let's say, what comes to mind? How do you think does that mean anything?
I would hope that it means that it's eating things that have not been genetically modified or
Yes.
sprayed or.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about cage-free in a minute. So yeah, so they're not eating. They could be eating organic vegetarian feed, but that means they're eating corn and soy, organic. But it doesn't mean they're eating the way chickens, they're not eating bugs and cow dung the way chickens mostly eat. And that's what we need for our nutrition. So it's better than not, but it's not ideal. If you want to go for the ideal, you want to find 100% pasture raised. So,
Do they say pasture raised on chickens?
yes, at the farmers market and at Whole Foods, I've seen it. So if you see free range or cage-free, again, it's really just a marketing tool. So the chickens are maybe perhaps not in little cages, but they are in a big, giant pen indoors, and they have a small door at the back where they have access to the outside. But it doesn't mean they actually are going out and roaming around eating, because their food and water is in the house. Why would they want to go out? There's no reason for them to. So the manufacturers are saying, okay, we're cage-free or we're free-range, but it's not true. It's not the case. So if you really want to have the best, then you want to find 100% pasture-raised. So any other questions about these terms?
So the free range doesn't fall into the same category as pasture raised?
No, it doesn't. It's not the same as pasture-raised, free range, because free range can be given either organic or not. Because if it doesn't say organic, it could be free range.
So you don't know what it eats.
That's right. That's right.
Okay.
Okay? Okay. So clear? Yeah. So hamburger. This is from my friend Jo Robbins. She's the author of Eating on the Wild Side. She says that they're injecting gases into hamburger meat that, and same with the beef and all that, with water, salt, preservatives, and other additives to make it look red. So again, you want to find a provider, a natural food store that has been ground. Like I know at certain, Whole Foods will say the beef was ground at 2 p.m. today or whatever. They're not injecting it or adding any coloring to it. But when you're shopping at like Safeway, or if you go to Walmart or Costco, you just don't know. Now, the good news is that Costco and Walmart are two of the largest providers of organic produce, so you can get some good deals there. But again, it might say grass-fed at Costco, not necessarily the highest quality beef, but it's better than just shopping, off. Yes.
At Costco, they have organic turkey.
Yes.
And when I opened it, it's like a paste. Does that mean it's
Ground turkey?
Yeah, it was kind of like a paste.
Yes, they overprocess it. That's what I've noticed in these prepackaged. It comes in plastic. It could have been, it could have been either overground or.
I'm thinking they do something.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, but I know that I like to get my meat or turkey ground fresh, and it just tastes different. Yeah. So the ratio of omega, so do you know about omega-3 and omega-6? Do you know the difference between, so omega-3 is the good, it's like the stuff that's in fish oil. And so grass-fed beef has higher omega-3 value. Corn-fed beef, see, again, we're eating what our animals eat. So if corn is high in omega-6, that tends to cause inflammation. So if you're eating corn-fed beef, and I remember growing up, it was always like corn-fed beef. It just seemed like, oh, this must be the good stuff. And now I've come to realize it's not. It's really not the good stuff. So you want to look for grass-fed because it'll be healthier for you. And then fish. So here are some terms for you. Are you confused about these? Wild-caught, farmed, sustainably farmed. So I've been to restaurants. You know, is your salmon wild? No, but it's sustainably farmed. No. And then Atlantic salmon. Whenever you see the word Atlantic salmon, that means it's farmed. So wild-caught would be the best. I know that we're overfishing, so it's a problem. So I'm not eating as much fish. I'm trying to eat the smaller fish, like sardines, for example. And I try to eat some wild salmon from California. But I do stay away from farmed salmon because, okay, what they're giving them, again, just like they're giving the cattle, antibiotics. And they're also doing, well, here, farm fish contains less proteins, less omega-3s, so it'll be higher in omega-6s, more fat, and then it's got higher levels of PCBs, mercury, pesticides, antibiotics, and they're feeding them GMO foods. So the farmed fish are getting these fish pellets made from corn and soy, genetically modified. So that's what you're eating when you're going out for dinner, or even, you know, because it's so hard. You know, you go into the fish market and then you see Atlantic salmon, $7.99, and then there's your wild salmon. It's like $25. Like, when did it get to be so expensive? It's like, so you start, you know, as a consumer, you start to think, well, what's worth it? And I think that our health is really on the line. So it would be good to avoid farmed fish. This is what some of these fish farms look like. They're crowded and they're filled with disease, so they're giving them all kinds of drugs, and sometimes they give them even things to speed up their weight, you know, to make them fatter quicker. And then, yeah, so here's one, you know, wild salmon, that's $18.99, and then farmed Norwegian salmon. Tilapia is almost always farmed, by the way. I haven't found any wild tilapia. And then this was an interesting little thing that I discovered, that fish farmers, they have this color wheel, and they decide what color their salmon's going to be because they're feeding them corn and soy. They're not getting the shrimp and the things that cause them to be orange. So they decide, okay, I think I want this color over here, you know, and they feed them a food dye. So, you know, I had one client who, she told me that her child had a corn and soy allergy. And she says, all of a sudden he's allergic to salmon. I don't know what happened. So I asked her, are you buying farmed salmon? And she said, yes. And so that's it. The fish is eating corn and soy. So then your child is being exposed to that. So it's tricky. You know, it's like, it's subtle, but it's there. And so when she switched him to wild salmon, he didn't have any allergies. Okay, so what's the one change that you're going to make from everything that I talked about today? Is there one thing that kind of stands out for you that you want to? Yes?
I will try to read all the labels even more carefully.
Okay, good. She's going to read labels more carefully. Better. Okay.
I'm going to try monk fruit.
Monk fruit. Okay, good. Yes?
I'll read your book.
Okay. Good. Thank you. Yeah, my book is it's broken up into 3 sections: what goes in us, what goes on us, and what surrounds us. And it was endorsed by Deepak Chopra and Ralph Nader. And it's all solutions based. It's not a scary, like, doom and gloom book. I'll be signing it up there. Yeah.
Go out and she'll be signing it and
Right.
answer more questions as well.
So yes,
I have a question. I don't know if this is related.
Okay, it's one on the
excitotoxins, right, in our artificial sweeteners. I guess so the big takeaway is really to pay attention to, read your labels more carefully, choose real food over processed food. If you are going to eat processed food, look for things that maybe only have 3, maybe 5 ingredients tops. And over cremation, right.
Do you hear what the biggest takeaway from you from the things you just said?
What is it?
Because you're talking about you had to go ask the butcher about it, if this was grass-fed, and the butcher, you have to this
Right.
and that. I'm thinking, what the heck? We need to
Right.
have label changing.
Yeah. So one of the things that I didn't talk about, I realize, is the water. But so get yourself a good water filter. I have a whole recommended product section on my website. It's really important because this woman pointed out that they're using our wastewater to irrigate, our crops. And so you want to make sure that you're getting out all the chemicals in there. There's pharmaceutical meds in there. They just did studies that showed that there's high levels of caffeine and sucralose in our drinking water. So where did that come from? Where did that come from? Because it's coming. It's being in our wastewater, in our toilets, and it's not being filtered out by the municipal water districts. Yeah.
The wastewater treatment plant.
Yes. Right. And we also have that. So I've just started testing my own body to see what's going on. I discovered I have mold living in my gut, so I'm working on a protocol to get rid of that. It's a process, It's like, it's just because I healed this tumor doesn't mean that now everything's 100% great. But it's a process I'm working on. I'm detoxing. I'm sitting in a sauna. I'm continually doing it because we're continually being bombarded.
I don't want to interrupt
Yes.
you, but we need the next speaker.
Okay. Anyway, thank you for coming. I'm going to sign books.
We'll be at the book signing.
Yeah, we can talk. Great. Thank you. Yay.